My name is Fiona Healey and I'm here today with Rhys and with Peggy. So Rhys has got primitive retained reflexes.
Well, before I ever came here, I found a lot of things difficult. Like I couldn't concentrate well, I couldn't do stuff that I can do now without getting like really angry. Like before, like I came here last time, when my mum came and like pointed at me and said, "Okay, get off your laptop, you've had way too long on it." I was like, "No, go away." And now I can be like, "Alright." And I get off and do something else.
You good? Yeah. Whenever I first meet the students, the first thing I always say, is, "I'd like to help you in the classroom. What is the key thing I can focus on?" Do you remember what your answer was?
He said stress, straight up stress.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. So that's why I immediately worked on his body, because I wanted to help him. When I first met Rhys, he was moving around a lot and he was incredibly emotional. Rhys is adopted and an awful lot of children have primitive retained reflexes that are adopted. Primitive retained reflexes are caused by some kind of a trauma, whether it's a trauma in the womb or through the birth or in the first few years of life. That's often why adopted children do tend to have them. So the first thing we did was just working on how Rhys could control his emotions. And one of the things I noticed that his body was highly sensitive to touch.
Three words. I hate wearing socks.
Why is that?
Because they are uncomfortable and they're not nice, I don't like them. And it's just a faff to put them on.
How did you get to that point, Peggy, where he didn't think about it anymore?
Rhys is sensitive to touch, particularly his feet. You just can't touch his feet. By the end of the session, Fiona was rubbing them, he was in the zone, and yeah, it's really amazing. He was a different child as soon as we walked out of here, but very soon after that, he came one day for a cuddle, and he fidgets. So cuddling has always been difficult, and that's an issue for adopted children, because you want to bond. But he could cuddle long enough that I could sync her breathing, and I've not been able to do that in, what are you, 12? So in 11 years.
All of us have primitive reflexes. Not that I'm going to, but if I went to punch you, you'd put your arms up. Now, children have primitive ones up until 3.5. So breathing is a reflex, crawling would be another reflex, walking would be another reflex. Now, if you've had some kind of a trauma, you may not feel safe, and often within adoption that has happened. But most importantly, their visual system doesn't develop and their auditory system doesn't develop. So if you don't release your reflexes, it's hard to control your emotions, it's hard to coordinate your body, it's hard to process language, and it's hard to have synchronous near vision to read.
Just in connection with what you're saying, Fiona, I think he was always on hyper alert.
Yes.
And so he was distracted and couldn't concentrate on what he was meant to be concentrating on, because every little noise took him somewhere else, and every peripheral vision thing distracted him.
So that stopped you from reading, writing, spelling and concentrating.
What did we decide last night? We talked about how life was going like that now. That you could have kept going that way, and you said, what would that have been like? It would have been your emotions still out of control. It would have been friendships wouldn't have been established because of your emotions being out of control. You couldn't maintain your emotional regulation around friends. Yeah, and you're calmer at school, so you can get more out of your education. Yeah. And already, who's got maths commendation? So yeah, no, home is calmer. Now he's just reasonable. People say, "What does she do?" And that was, it's magic. We don't know.